and ReliaQuest. 20 minutes later, I see Brett McMurphy on Twitter, the main bowl guy for this whole thing, released that it's South Carolina, Illinois, and the Citrus Bowl. I'm like, what? Like,
okay, so we've learned a lesson here, Jack, haven't we?
I was like, I called Wes and I'm like, can we figure out how to get this back? And he's like, I don't think so. So I just had to rewrite that part. And I'm like sitting in the line at Bojangles, and it's just, oh my gosh, it was. But, I'm glad they're going to the Citrus Bowl. Orlando, I mean, it's the best spot for them, and, hey, they deserve it, so.
Yeah, Orlando's cool. And the thing, too, and Shane, obviously you were there last night, Shane kept pushing this out the whole time during the presser, that the Citrus Bowl chose South Carolina.
Yeah, he made a point.
Now, okay, so let's stop and think about it for a minute, why that makes sense. All right, so when's the last time you had South Carolina at the Citrus Bowl?
It was probably about 2013, 14.
Okay, so it's been a minute, right?
Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a minute. Alabama fans aren't going to travel because they're annoyed. They want to go to the college football playoff, not the bleeping Citrus Bowl. That's a slap in the face to a Bama fan. We have to go slum at a bowl game. I mean, they want to go to the college football playoff, right?
Yeah, they want to be in. Yep.
So if I'm the Citrus Bowl and I'm looking for who's going to travel, Gamecock fans travel.
Yes.
And they haven't been there in a while. Now, no offense to Ole Miss. Out of the traveling, we saw what South Carolina did 2 years ago in Jacksonville.
Packed.
Took over the whole city, right? So if I'm the Citrus, I mean, and I know that the Bama fans are like not in the mood, right? They're just not in the mood. Taking South Carolina makes sense.
It does, because it's number one about the ticket sales and all that, and you will get. I mean, Ray Tanner literally told Shane Beamer last night that they had the first allotment of tickets, and they already sold out of that last night, which is insane. So you already know. Like, I don't know how many Illinois fans are going to travel. Heck, I don't even really know an Illinois Fighting Illini fan. But like, South Carolina fans are going to pack this place out, and it's going to be really good. And then also, TV ratings also matter too. Lenore Sellers, South Carolina on TV. Who wouldn't want to check that out?
Yeah, and in Illinois, I did a couple years of radio in Wisconsin. Most Illinois fans are Chicago Bear fans.
Yeah.
It's not really a college vibe in the whole area. No. Champaign's a decent college town, but the state isn't going gaga over the Illini going to a bowl game.
No.
It's not happening.
Definitely not. But it is a good matchup, and here's the funny thing. Illinois is pretty much in the same boat as South Carolina, where they went 5-7 last year, 9-3 this year. So they've really turned it around, and hey, they got Brett Bielema, so that's a former SEC guy.
They actually found the forward pass at Illinois this year. Kind of worked out okay. All right, David Dare, we got to get a little sandstorm. Get us in the right mood for the Citrus Bowl right now.
Time to get hyped.
Here's your 9 a.m. Sandstorm.
Sponsored by George Sink Injury Lawyers. Just call all nines.
Again, a little dose of sandstorm brought to you by George Sink Injury Lawyers. It's really simple. Just dial nines. How can you forget that?
No.
Just dial nines.
Yeah, dial nines.
Very simple. Get a little sandstorm. Put you in the mood for a little Citrus Bowl trip to Orlando.
I think so. It's going to be a good time, I think.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look, Orlando is just built to go hang, right?
Yeah. Seems like it'll be a good time. Theme parks there.
I was gonna say,
all that.
Last time I checked, it's a little family friendly.
Yeah, it seems to be the case. And yeah, that's the thing for Gamecock fans. Like, if you're gonna go, you can bring your family, and it works out to where the weather will be nice. There's a lot to do. Oh, and by the way, South Carolina football is gonna be playing there.
Yeah. I mean, you fall into a bowl game. And the other thing is, if you don't take a family, there's still a lot of things to do. Like at Disney, you can drink around the world last time I checked.
That's right.
Not a bad thing.
Out in Epcot. So, yeah, it seems like a good time. And if that's not your speed, Universal's right down the block.
Universal.
Or SeaWorld. You got all the options out there. You got all the options.
All right. So, obviously, we'll talk a ton more about the Citrus Bowl matchup with Illinois and all those things as we move forward here in the next couple weeks. Dow Loggins.
Yeah.
This is interesting, too. I'm not going to lie to you. Didn't see this coming in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, I'm more surprised that it's not surprising he got interviewed for jobs. Like, I think we knew that was going to happen for all these different coaches on staff, because when you have success, that is what happens. But the fact that he took the App State job was a little bit surprising to me. It seemed like it was his first offer. I mean, I haven't seen anything else out there. Mm-hmm. But, he seemed like he really liked it. And, look, it's tough to lose guys. This is now the third coach that Shane's lost. He lost Pete Lembo and Jody Wright last year. Mm-hmm. now this is, he's building up a little coaching tree
Dude's
here.
building a tree. How about that guy?
Yeah. So.
And so going to Dow real fast. Like I went back after Dow got the gig. So I'm going to go back and look at the articles about the candidates. Maybe I just missed it, right?
Yeah.
And I looked at a couple of posts, and Dow's name was nowhere to be found.
Yeah.
You see Sean Elliott, because obviously the connection. You saw Clayton White. I mean, he's a Broyles finalist. There was no Dow Loggins in any of those.
Yeah.
It was wild, and that was a real down low, up there, visit, do. But I'll say this. Here's why I'm not surprised. You've talked to Dow.
Yeah.
We've had a chance here to talk to Dow, both on the air and off the air. Dow can wow you with stories. Dow's got a million. Dow is a very easy conversationalist.
He is.
Some people in this world just interview really well. I could see Dow popping in there. Dow will wow you with the answers, with stories. He'll go to Jay Cutler for you. He'll go to now probably got some Lenora Sellers stories for you, some Spencer Rattler. And plus what happened with this offense in the last 6 weeks-ish, especially after the bye. I could see Dow sitting there and getting you going with how good he would be. I think he's an excellent interviewer.
Oh, totally. You hear him in press conferences, because that's the nice thing about South Carolina. Coordinators talk every single week. And Dow, the answers he gives are very good. Like, they're very thought-provoking with the offense and stuff. And I think that is something that is worth, pointing out. Like, I think when you look back at when Pete Lembo got hired at Buffalo, you could look at his interviews with the media from all his special teams coordinator press conferences. The guy knows what he's talking about. And I think that's the thing with Dow. And it's a good opportunity for him. App State's a very good program, had a bad season this year, didn't make a bowl game. Now they've got a chance to go out here, and he could potentially be the guy to kind of rectify things.
See, that's the one thing. App State, two of the last 3 years underachieved what they want. Yes. Remember, that's a really good Group of Five program. There's a lot of history and tradition there. I mean, obviously, you had Scott Satterfield, you had Eli Drinkwitz. You've had some dudes there who have taken a lineage that was built years and years ago and have run off and found jobs, in the power conferences. But you got to win there, Dow. They'll give you like 3 years to get it cooking, but you got to win there, or they'll go find the next guy.
And keep in mind, this is his first head coaching gig, so that's also important. Maybe that's a good place for him to start. And it's good that he's been in the college game for a few years now with South Carolina, Arkansas. How can I manage being the coordinator for a big bowl game and also trying to build a team? Because the portal opens today, and it's full speed ahead to try and get this thing done.
Hey, Dave, we're going to throw a curveball at you real quick. Cut 13. Let's get to what Jack just brought up about Shane talking about, will Dow be the offensive coordinator for the Citrus Bowl? Again, cut 13. Fire it up.
I'd say it's a little bit of both. Our initial conversations yesterday were he wanted to stay and coach in the bowl, and my initial thoughts yesterday were that I wanted him to as well. But there's also, this was before he announced the job, and as he's finding out what I found out when Coach Tanner offered me the job 4 years ago, last Thursday or Friday, whatever it was, there's a lot that comes at you when you say yes and it gets announced that you don't expect. And he's realizing that right now, and it's a lot. It was hard for me balancing being the head coach and going back to Oklahoma to coach the tight ends in the Big 12 championship game against Iowa State. There was a lot on my plate. He's an offensive coordinator doing the same thing in an era of transfer portal and NIL, which I didn't have to deal with when I first got hired. There was a portal, but it wasn't quite like it is right now as well. So we don't have to decide anything right now. We'll see how he handles this transition, and I want to do what's best for him, and I want to do what's best for our program also. So those are all things that we're working through. But initial conversations were, finish this thing out, which Kirby did when he took the Georgia job, and Dan did when he took the Oregon job, and I'm sure there's others that I'm not, thinking of.
All right, we'll bring this back. Talk about, do we think Dow will actually OC the bowl game, and two, who could replace Dow Loggins? There's some in-house. There's obviously going to be a lot of phone calls Shane's going to get from out of house because, again, you got a pretty good quarterback to work with here. So we'll get into all that coming back. Jack Veltri, Gamecock Central, Terry Ford hanging in for Tyler. David Ayers here like always. Well, except for his 26 weeks of vacation. It is the extra point right here on the game.
Hey, want to tell you about our show sponsor, Pete Ale Wine Pool and Spa. They're an award-winning swimming pool builder that's been in the business for 25 years with more than 40 years of pool construction experience. They service the entire Midlands area, whether you're looking for weekly cleaning maintenance or chlorine to salt conversion, with services like safety cover installs and safety fence installs. You can check out all their offerings at the showroom in Lexington and talk to their experts about any and everything you might need. Maybe you have a house right now and you're looking to add a pool to your home, or maybe you're like me. Eventually, I'm going to buy a home, and when I do, I'm going to want to buy or put a pool in my backyard, and I'm going to go to Pete Ale Wine Pool and Spa to do so. I would highly recommend you guys do the same. So their retail store is located at 5541 Sunset Boulevard in Lexington. Again, that's 5541 Sunset Boulevard, and you can also check them out online at PeteAleWinePools.com.
I know we're already excited. Coach Tanner was just telling me at the awards banquet across the street that we've already sold out of our initial allotment, and we've already had to call back down to Orlando and ask for more tickets as well. And based on the number of people outside of coaching that are friends of ours here in Columbia that Emily's told me about, there's a lot of people that have already booked plane tickets and hotels to go down there as well. So we certainly need to take over Orlando like we did Jacksonville a couple years ago.
Yep. There's Shane talking about first allotment of tickets gone. Terry Ford, Jack Veltri hanging in for Tyler today as we roll the extra point with Jack, sponsored by P.L. Wine Pool and Spa. Dave's here. Citrus Bowl for South Carolina. You heard Shane, first allotment is gone, Jack. We yapped about it in the opening riff of the show. They're going back to get more tickets. I believe there'll be a lot of garnet and black running around Disney.
Yeah, I would say so. I'll be there the 20. I just booked hotel last night, 26th out till about New Year's Day. So it's going to be, I'm assuming a lot of Gamecocks will be there. It's going to be, you can't go anywhere and not see the garnet and black.
Yeah, Elijah will be there sleeping in his car like usual, because we don't, give him any money for a hotel. He'll sleep in his car, cover everything for us here on the game. All right, so we've talked about, obviously, the Citrus Bowl, and there'll be a ton more conversation about that facing Illinois. 10 a.m. Gamecock game day, 3 o'clock kick right here on the game in Columbia and also in Myrtle Beach. Dow Loggins taking off to be the head coach at Appalachian State. We kind of yipped about the idea. Wow, didn't see that one coming. Here's Shane, cut to Dave, talking about how he's fired up for Dow's next step in his career.
Looking back to yesterday, excited for Dow. Great compliment to him, testament to him. Fired up for him and Beth to get the opportunity to go to a great program up in Boone and become a head coach. And he would be the first to tell you it's a credit to the players and staff here at Carolina, but he's worked really, really hard for the opportunity. And like I told him, based on the way that we played offensively at the end of the season and Lenoris as a quarterback, there were going to be other opportunities. And for him, don't just take the first one, make sure it's the right one. And he went up to Boone and spent the night a couple nights ago. And he called me yesterday and, told me that he really felt it was the right one and this was the direction that he was going. So wish him well.
Yeah, there was a lot of thought that Garrett Riley would get it. Because I remember they threw a 50-burger on Appalachian State this past season, Clemson.
Yeah, it was 66-7 or something like that.
It crushed them. Just scored again. So a lot of people thought, well, Garrett Riley, here you go. You've been in Clemson for a couple years now. Next step, head coach like your brother, blah, blah, blah. There was even the thought that Scott Satterfield would leave Cincinnati and go back to Appalachian State. Well, I thought that was, Cincinnati's a Power 4 school in the Big 12. Why would you go back? Yeah. That one didn't make any sense, but I thought it'd be I think he's happy with where he's at.
Yeah,
now.
He's already done the whole group of 5 thing. Mm-hmm. And, his family's here and stuff, so why would you want to go back?
Right. So we move forward, and we played the cut last segment about Shane and Dow. In a perfect world, Dow would be the OC for the bowl game, but that's a great idea now, right?
Yeah.
We'll see if it's a great idea once it's like when you move away. Yeah, I'll be back for your party next month, bro. I'm good. And all of a sudden you move away and your job and you're moving. You're like, dude, I can't be there. Yeah. Sorry, man. And I feel that's what's going to happen here. I think, and it's been written, you guys wrote about it, Mike Shula makes sense if you're going to have somebody plug in for the bowl game and a guy that might be the permanent choice at offensive coordinator.
And that's why I think they should be going with him as the interim OC. Just name him that and let him call the plays and stuff. If Dal really wants to help out and stuff, by all means go ahead, but not calling the plays. Let Shula run the show. Maybe have Dal in his corner for advice and stuff. I don't know, but just something to where you see what Shula can do. Because, again, in-house is an option. As Shane pointed out yesterday, they obviously could go out-of-house, too, because they're going to have so many people are going to want to work with Lenoris Sellers and what this offense can do to build that next step. But for continuity purposes, it might be better to have Shula, so that way Lenoris isn't having to learn an entirely new offense next year.
That's the point. Mike Shula's worked a ton with Lenoris Sellers this year.
They all seem to like him. And
he can just take this offense they've been running, and he can just keep going.
Yeah.
And you bring in, I've always said that, man, I know it's college, it's different from the NFL. You need someone who coaches quarterbacks, man. Yeah. And again, the way this analyst role has changed, you can bring in a wink, wink, analyst to be your quarterback coach if you need to be.
Pretty much.
And maybe Mike Shula, and if it works again, obviously it's, Shane's got to feel like that's the right fit, and Shula's, saying all the right things and can do the job. I mean, he's got a ton of experience. We know that. So that's to me, if I'm Shane, that's my first conversation. I mean, I've got all my different options, but one of my major options, can Mike Shula step in and take this thing and just run with the continuity? He's got a good relationship with Lenoris and just keep this thing flowing.
Yeah. And look, I think it's a good opportunity here for Shula. I hope he does get the opportunity to call the plays and stuff. Because, I mean, look, that's what they did in 22, right?
Mm-hmm.
Marcus Satterfield was the OC, and then obviously he left for Nebraska, and then you had Freddie Kitchens calling the plays for the Gator Bowl. I would like to see the same thing happen here, where you give this guy a chance. And then, I mean, look, it's a one-game sample size and stuff, and it's just a bowl game, but, like, you learn a lot about what Shula could do potentially. And he's had the experience coaching as an OC with the Panthers in the NFL during the Cam Newton days. So it would be a seamless fit, I think, but also if there's some great hire out there, by all means, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know the outhouse candidates yet.
Yeah.
I should say the out of house, not the outhouse. It sounds like,
Yeah.
Anyway, it sounds like something smelly at the state fair.
Yeah.
The outside the program candidates for this gig, but I think in-house, you obviously look at Mike Shula, guy's been a head coach. He's got a ton of skins on the wall. But again, this is an offense that needs to evolve. No offense to Dow Loggins, because I thought the offense really started to kind of become what it could be after that bye week.
Yes.
It felt like they started, okay, this is what Lenoris does well, this is what we're working on, let's go in this direction, do this and that, blah, blah, blah. But like the Clemson game, that wasn't drawing up fancy plays, running a fancy system. That was Lenoris going, oh, my God, I'm about to get the bleep knocked out of me. Let me take off and start running.
Yep.
That was a dude. Your dude was better than their dudes, and that's really what that was.
And I think a lot of what this offense did this year, Lenoris covered up probably what could have been worse. Like take last year's Spencer Rattler, for instance. And Spencer's a great quarterback, but he's a pocket passer. Lenoris is a dual threat guy who can run. Let's say you had Spencer back in the offense this year and he's running the show. I think we would have seen a lot of similarities to what happened last year, where he's getting sacked a ton. He's not able to make a ton of big plays with his feet. Lenoris, he turns a third and long sack into a touchdown. It's remarkable what he can do with his feet. And I think that's why you saw the offense not have a ton of success last year. Lenoris is able to extend plays with his feet, thus creating longer drives and more opportunities for plays.
Yeah, and look, is this year's version of the offensive line better than last year's version? Absolutely, but let's make no mistake. It still has room to get a lot better.
Yes.
And, I mean, some of the things that were done on offense with this team were individual efforts. For example, Lenoris. Rocket Sanders had games where, I mean, his yards before contact, there weren't any. And he was breaking a ton of tackles and finding ways to make a lot of plays just because he's an upper-level type running back. Same thing with Lenoris Sellers. Broke 18 tackles in the Clemson game.
Yeah.
That was not scheme. That was not play calling. That was not great blocking. That was just, again, your dude was better than their dudes.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
Yeah, exactly. And look, Lenoris is that dude. And you're going to have to replace Rocket next year. The good news is you have a few good running backs coming back. And maybe we'll see some of that showcased in the bowl game here. We'll see if Rocket plays or not. That's the other thing. I think a lot of guys are going to end up playing in this game, it feels like, and that's a good thing. And that gives you a chance to really see what this offense can do moving forward. And would it surprise me if Dal calls plays? No. But I think it would be better suited if you have Shula calling the plays. Maybe do like a co-OC type thing where Shula is the one calling the plays, but Dal's like the guy shadowing him, making sure everything runs smoothly in the background.
All right, real quick, Dave, another curveball at you. Cut 4 really fast. The other part of this, obviously, in today's world is who opts out of a bowl game. Here's Shane.
I've had guys before tonight tell me they definitely plan on playing, the seniors that want to get this 10th win. I haven't had anyone tell me they're not. I met with some guys last week in my office individually, John, about their decision. They're still certainly on the fence, but I can tell you this, there's a strong groundswell, if you will, downstairs in that locker room within the team to go get this 10th win. and that's being talked about a lot as well. So we're going to give, like I said, give our guys a little bit of time this week to get away and refresh mentally and physically, and then come back at the end of the week, first part of next week, excited about getting started, and hopefully we'll have everyone still intact to do that.
What's your gut
on
opt-outs?
They're gonna have a few. I think it's the obvious NFL draft guys, like maybe like a Kennard. I think Josh Simon probably opts out. Rocket. I mean, you're gonna lose a few guys for this game. I think at the end of the day, though, I think a lot of guys. I think it's true. A lot of guys are gonna want to get this 10th win. A lot of the seniors are going to want to go out the right way, and it's a great bowl game. It's one thing if they went to the Gator Bowl. That's a game they just were at. It's not as exciting. This is an exciting game to go to, and it's a chance to get that 10th win, which I know a lot of those guys are wanting to be motivated to do.
Another guy, keep an eye on, Eamon Worry.
Yeah, Nick's a big one because he could come back next year, but I think it's more likely than not. Let's say he's a day 1, day 2 pick in the NFL draft. It just makes sense for him to go, and he's had a great year, and I wouldn't blame him if he did that.
I feel like he's a second-round pick in the NFL draft.
I think so. I think so, for sure.
So we'll see what happens with him. Extra Point with Jack Velcher from Gamecock Central. This hour sponsored by P-Dale Wine Pool and Spa. Terry Ford hanging in for Tyler. Dave here like always. We'll come back. They have this thing called the College Football Playoff.
Yeah, what's that?
I don't know. Let's talk about that coming back. I mean, nobody's really yapped about it. It hasn't really caused any controversy. It went really smooth. We'll get into that next here on the Extra Point on the game in Columbia, Florence, and Myrtle Beach. Who's laying the wood? Well, the College Football Playoff Committee laid the wood to Bama. That's where the wood got laid yesterday. Extra point. I lose track of the shows. I'm on so many of these.
So many names.
Extra point. Terry Ford in for Tyler Jacks here from Gamecock Central, sponsored by Pete Owen's Pool and Spa. Dave's punching the buttons, keeping us on the air. All right, so College Football Playoff. It all started with this. We all knew 11 of them, right? That was a no-brainer, correct?
Yeah.
It was easy.
I think for the most part you knew, like conference champions, obviously, and then the teams that were 1 to 2 losses, it made sense. But that last spot, man,
and
fascinating.
To the point, and to the credit of Reese Davis, and also it was kind of annoying, Reese really stretched that last announcement out, man.
Oh, my gosh.
Come on, dude. Let's just pop this thing so we can talk. Give us cut 20, Dave. Here is that announcement on ESPN yesterday about 12:30.
1 spot remaining. I think we pretty much know the 2 teams it comes down to. Does it come down to Alabama, which has some rough losses, or SMU, which really doesn't have anything that ugly on its resume, but they also don't have anything that really stands out as a punctuation mark of something that would put them into the field. You see the key wins being Louisville and Duke, Pitt and TCU, whereas Alabama has 3 teams on their ledger that will be ranked in the top 15 to 20 in these final rankings.
I think the biggest gap right there is the key wins, and I think that's what Coach Saban was talking about. When you look at the key wins for Alabama versus the key wins for SMU, being Louisville, Duke, Pitt, TCU, I mean, there is a mile apart in having to go through those schedules.
I know that I'm dragging this up. I want to say this before we get to the end. There's no right answer here, but there are downsides to both answers. To take on Penn State and the final spot in the college football playoff. Who is it? The SMU Mustangs hold on to that final spot.
Yeah, they did. And yeah, Reese, you dragged that out.
Yes. And he knew it. He knew it. Because, the playoff shows had gone by so quick. Mm-hmm. They got their picks out, moved on the first 5 or whatever shows. Of course, the big one, the one that's a 4-hour show where they need the money. They're dragging it out. They're milking every penny out of you.
Come on, Reese. Let's go, man. I got to go to the bathroom. Come on, let's go,
Get
Reese.
it up. It takes 30 minutes.
Are you okay with SMU over Bama?
I am. Look, SMU on Saturday night, I watched the end of that game. SMU was trailing most of the way, and they didn't play particularly great at the start. Clemson jumps out quick, and then SMU plays better second quarter on. And look, the last seconds of the game, Clemson gets a good kickoff return, and they kick a field goal. And you got to give Dabo credit. They did a good job in winning that game. But I think SMU did enough to make the playoff. And look, they don't have the quality wins on their schedule, and Alabama does. But guess what? SMU doesn't have the awful losses that Alabama has to Vanderbilt and Oklahoma, and I'm glad the committee got it right and left Alabama out.
Well, the funny thing was, again, you're SMU, you scratch and claw your way back to tie the game. Kickoff coverage.
Yeah,
kickoff coverage.
Bad.
I mean, if you have a decent kickoff coverage on that kickoff return, you might still be playing.
Yeah.
I mean, so that killed them. Absolutely. 3 phases, man. Here's the funny part about all this. I believe, though, if Clemson blows out SMU, Alabama's in. I think
so.
The Clemson comeback, the SMU comeback to lose the way they did,
it kind of killed them.
I think that helped them. Because it looked like Clemson was boat racing them early, right?
Yeah, it looks like it was probably out of hand, and that's probably the best thing for Alabama right there.
Yeah, if Clemson beats them by multiple scores, I think Bama gets in.
Probably.
There's no right answer to this because, again, here's what it comes down to me, Jack. There's no process. There's no cut and dry. Here are the rules we look at when we are studying these teams and making our choices. There's no rhyme or reason. We make it up as we go along. We throw bleep against the wall every week. Head-to-head matters with South Carolina, Ole Miss, and Bama, but head-to-head didn't matter for Bama, Tennessee. Strength of schedule mattered last week when it came to Alabama over Miami. It doesn't matter this week because it's SMU and Alabama. But I really think why the other reason SMU's in, and this is bigger than having Alabama in, you can't dump on the conference championship games.
No.
The last thing you want, Jack, is teams going, oh, we're opting out of the conference championship game. We don't want to get SMU'd. Those things are high dollar, right?
Yeah.
And you don't want to devalue them because you've already made them valuable by saying that's how you get an automatic bid. But if you're the other team coming into it that already is in, but you don't want to lose your spot, you might say, nah, we're good. We don't want to play. Thanks, though.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That would be a terrible precedent to set, as if there's not already a million bad precedents set by the committee over these last however many weeks. Look, if you left out SMU for a Bama team that lost to bad teams, that is a really, really tough thing to look at. And I wouldn't blame any team for not wanting to play in the conference championship game, even though there's an automatic bid up for grabs. But it's not worth it if you're a 1 or 2 loss team. Heck, if SMU had 2 losses going into that game and they lost the third game, I mean, Alabama's probably getting in. Mm-hmm. So the fact that it was this close it's just unbelievable. Like, look at the way Alabama played down the stretch. How can you tell anyone that's a college football playoff team when they went to Norman, Oklahoma to play a team that wasn't even bowl eligible at the time and lose by 21 points? It's just bad.
And let's be honest, a lot of this is because Alabama is Alabama. If you would have put, for an example, if you take Alabama's resume and you gave it to a lot of other teams in college football, they're not this close to getting into the college football playoff.
No.
So let's just be honest. Alabama matters, and that's why they were ahead of Tennessee, even though Tennessee beat them. And that's why it feels like every week they go, okay, what can we do to make sure Alabama's in the conversation? Because, again, they bring eyeballs, they bring ratings, which brings money, because this is a TV show. But what trumps it is we can't screw up our conference championship games. And I think Nick Saban made the best point. This committee screwed it up, not by what happened this past weekend, but by having SMU as high as they had them in the first place, or when they had BYU as high as they did in the first place. Because here's the other part. Now you're saying strength of schedule doesn't matter. So then, if you want competitive non-conference games, you can't tell people strength of schedule doesn't matter, because then coaches are going to do what?
They're going to schedule bad opponents, cupcakes.
Right. So you've hurt that side of the metric.
Yes.
And you're also hurting, like, for an example, South Carolina has Clemson baked in. If you saw what you just saw, because Shane's got some pretty interesting games scheduled moving forward in the non-conference. Aren't you going, instead of playing Miami, can we play Miami-Dade Middle School?
Yeah, like, play bad teams like that and blow them out. Because, again, when you look at the numbers and stuff, and it's like, okay, what was your margin of victory? What was your game control? All this stuff. Your strength of record, strength of schedule, that stuff helps you. And look, it was always this thing for the longest time during the 4-team era that, you need to schedule tough opponents. You can't be playing cupcakes all the time because you won't get rewarded. Now it's complete 180 backwards. It's like, what are we doing? Like, have your values set accordingly. And I know the committee changes and stuff, but have your values set accordingly. And let's also figure out, okay, what does the committee value? Because they say they value strength of schedule, but obviously they don't, because if that were the case, maybe South Carolina would have moved up more than one spot.
Well, here's the other part, too. Nobody talks about Indiana because they got one loss.
Oh, yeah.
Indiana beat no one.
Yes. That's not necessarily their fault that Michigan and Washington, their premier games on the schedule, they suck. I mean, they're not good. But I think now it's like, you look at who they beat. Their best win is over Michigan. That's not good. And Michigan is 7-5. So, look, I understand, like, if you win 11 games, you deserve to be in. But when you lose your only competitive game by so much to Ohio State, who just lost to Michigan thereafter, I mean, that's not a good look. You can't be putting in teams like that. And we're going to find out a lot that December 20th and 21st what these games look like. Because if teams are getting blown out, man, I will guarantee that changes a lot of how the committee picks these teams moving forward.
But here's why Indiana's in. They're a one-loss team in the Big Ten.
Exactly.
And that's it.
And it looks pretty. It looks pretty. But when you look into the details, which, let's be real, the committee doesn't look into details, it's just not. They don't have a good resume to go off of. But, hey, what do we know?
Yeah, well, not as much as the committee, obviously, because they watch all the games.
Yeah, we're not sitting in the couches with our fancy drinks. So.
Absolutely. I will come back. There were some really cool college. The conference championship games were quite compelling, some of them. We'll talk about the next. Extra Point, Terry Ford, Jack Veltri, David Dare, rolling up until 10 here on the game. A lot of college football yapping on the Extra Point with Jack Velcher from Gamecock Central, sponsored by Pete L. Wine Pool and Spa. Terry Ford hanging in for Tyler. David Daris here. All right, so we've talked about the Citrus Bowl, South Carolina taking on Illinois, one of the 3 ranked versus ranked matchups. 2, Dow Loggins actually moving on to be the head coach at Appalachian State. Talking about the college football playoff. That's some good conference championship games, though, over the weekend. Which one was your favorite?
I think probably, I mean, look, I loved seeing Marshall beat Louisiana. And for context, brother went there and stuff. And always like these underdog type stories. You know, Marshall's a good one, and they won. But, you know, honestly, I think it's either Georgia, Texas, or Clemson, SMU. Clemson, SMU was crazy because of the field goal at the end of the game. 57 yards from Clemson, and the way that whole the thing unfolded was just absolutely nuts.
It's sad because it wipes out Clemson almost gacking a huge lead and losing to SMU.
And it's a win-win. It's like, okay, if Clemson loses it the way they should have or could have, it's okay, cool. Like, Gamecock fans will love that. But also a dramatic finish to win the game when it definitely looked like this game was going to overtime right after SMU scored. I mean, that was a phenomenal finish.
If you're Texas, how many different legs do you need to kick yourself in the backside? Because you should have been up by multiple scores going into halftime. You dominated Georgia for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And the scoreboard was like, what? That's it?
And that's
where we're at?
Their quarterback was out. Like, you know, Carson Beck is, you know, out. Gunnar Stockton had to come in.
Let me throw this to you real quick, because they were talking about this coming out of halftime. It almost felt like, in a weird way, and again, this goes to Kirby, the coaching staff, the players at Georgia, that like woke them up. They like all got geeked because now we got to go out there and fight for Gunnar. We got to go fight with a backup quarterback. We got to go win the SEC championship game without our starter. All right, fellas, let's all get it together and run up that hill. It's almost like it was Braveheart or something. I mean, it felt weird, but all of a sudden, Georgia had extra juice in that second half on both sides of the ball in all 3 phases. I mean, punter gets her. They run a fake punt that worked in the SEC championship game. It felt like, in a weird way, Georgia kicked it into an extra gear because they had to make up for losing their starting quarterback. Have I lost my mind?
Yeah, no, you're totally right. Like, it's ironic because it's like, and here's the thing: if they had lost that game, and let's say we don't, like, what is the status going to be of Carson Beck? Like, do they get treated like Florida State in some way, where they? I mean, I couldn't see them dropping all the way out of the top 12, but I mean, look. The fact they won that game kind of saved their skin a little bit, I think, to some extent, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you know, the funniest part of it, to me, I had someone text that to me. He's like, well, Carson Beck's hurt. What if Georgia loses? Remember Florida State last year? My response was, bro, what conference is Georgia in?
Yeah.
What conference is Florida State in?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, Florida State was in the SEC last year, and that same scenario plays out. Florida State's in college football playoff.
Probably.
Undefeated SEC champion. It doesn't matter if an offensive lineman's playing quarterback.
Yeah.
You're going to get in the college football playoff if you're undefeated SEC champion.
Most definitely.
Even if Georgia loses back and they lose the game, I still think they hang in because, again, they're Georgia and it's the SEC. But it is an interesting conversation to have. And remember, when he came out for that handoff, that wing wasn't looking good, man.
No. It wasn't looking good. And again, it should have all been avoided because right at halftime or last play, you know, you're trying to run some crazy play, and it's like, just take a knee and go into the break, man. Like, I know you're around the 50, but, like, come on. Like, you just got crushed by a defender standing around the pocket, and yeah, could have been a lot worse.
The other game that we haven't gotten into is the Big Ten championship game. Penn State hung in better than I thought they were going to.
Very good game.
And Oregon couldn't put it away till late. 2 things. A, Oregon offense is stupid. B, Oregon's defense better man up.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think Oregon's offense is very good. I think you need to probably see Dylan Gabriel in New York for the Heisman ceremony. I think he had a very, very respectable game. And Penn State, give them a lot of credit. I know James Franklin gets bashed every time they lose to a top 10 team because it just happens so frequently. I think he's like 3-19 against top 10 opponents in his tenure at Penn State. But, like, the Nittany Lions played pretty good. It's just their defense. I mean, whoa. I mean, they better clean that up to face Indiana or Notre Dame here in a few weeks.
Yeah, and they do. They got to get it together. Because I know the Indiana doesn't have the firepower Oregon does, but again, if you're Indiana, you're watching film, just like whoever's going to get Oregon is going to say, do you see how Penn State ran on Oregon? You see how they got physical with Oregon? Whoever that we is going to be, can we go out there and get physical and run the football like Penn State did? I don't know. We'll find out, but Oregon's got to clean some stuff up on the defensive side of the ball, especially if they play against a team that can run.
Yeah, most definitely. I'm sorry. I said Indiana, Notre Dame. I meant to say SMU. SMU facing Penn State. But, yeah, look, it's going to be – I think overall the playoff field feels right. Mm-hmm. I'm just worried, though, these first-round matchups, you're going to see a lot of potential blowouts, and I think Texas could probably smack Clemson around. We could see Penn State white out in Happy Valley, probably blow out SMU. We'll see what happens with the other two games, Indiana and Notre Dame. But, like, man, I really hope there's some good games because, you want to see the committee get it right. But we're going to see if that ends up being the case.
Well, Vegas, the closest one's 7.
Yeah, all the lines are kind of spread out. So
yeah. So we'll see. Good hanging out with you, bud.
Yeah, good hanging out with you.
It was cool, man. Tyler will be back tomorrow. Jack Velcher, Gamecock Central with us. We'll kick some more Extra Point. Our buddy Sam from WIS is going to come in here next. We'll talk some more right here on the Extra Point on the game.